Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Norway Chess 2022, a very strong chess tournament where they are playing in Stavanger in Norway. Shocking, of course, that the name of the tournament is actually where it is being hosted. A friendly reminder of the format: all the players play a classical game against each other worth 3 points, and if that game ends in a draw, they go to the Armageddon. They sit down, white gets 10 minutes, black gets 7 minutes, but draw odds, and that is either worth 1 point for the winner, 1.5 points rather for the winner of that head-to-head matchup, or 1 point. So going into round number 4, Vishwanath and Anand leading the way with 2 wins in Classical, as well as an Armageddon win. Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen catching up. And speaking of Magnus Carlsen, this video is a story about the queen of Magnus Carlsen, because it was on full display. That's not a euphemism in any way, shape, or form. I'm talking about the queen on the chessboard. So he's up against Anish Giri in this game in round number 4, and he plays d4. And Magnus, for a second day in a row, has an opportunity to play the move g3 to go for the Catalan. He did this against Timur, but I don't know. Magnus is not really a guy who, I do not expect him to repeat an opening, at least in back-to-back games. Maybe he doesn't like specifically something about Anish's repertoire. Like yesterday, we know Rajabov played DC, Queen C2, B5. Is Anish going to play this, or is he going to play, A6 and the ultra main line? What is he going to do? Rather than even investigating that, Magnus goes for Knight C3, perhaps anticipating something. Now, Anish here has many choices. So Bishop E7 is Queen's Gambit decline, but that's really not trendy nowadays at top level. Rogozin is a little bit more trendy. The Semitarash is extremely trendy right now. You have a lot of different sidelines of the Queen's Gambit declined. You have the Vienna, the very forcing lines with DC4. So we have C5, the Semitarash. Here it used to be CD5, Knight D5, this extremely long line where black trades all the pieces. But recently, they have been mirroring the capture on D4. C takes D4. And I suppose that Magnus might have anticipated this happening because he himself has played this with black. So Queen takes D4, E takes D5, Bishop G5, and white takes an approach here, not playing the move E4. This was played several times when this line became kind of like it burst out on the scene. It was supposed to be the way to get a better position for white, but then they started playing Bishop G5, and this way where you just sort of leave the isolated pawn there for white, and you do your thing, right? So H6, Bishop H4, and all the way up until this moment, the players were following a game between Magnus and Prague from actually very recently. There was this game Magnus-Prague in the online event, and I think in that matchup the move A3 was played here, if I'm not mistaken, maybe for B4 stuff. But here, Magnus plays Bishop takes F6. And the reason behind that move, like he could play Knight A4, but that doesn't accomplish a whole lot after Queen A5. Like, he's not going to play B3. I don't, like, why is the Knight on A4 the hill that he's choosing to die on, right? Knight A4 doesn't do a whole lot. Rook B1 is just awfully passive. By the way, if anyone's confused why A3 does, like, because Rook FB1, the queen just gets trapped. So, yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do here. You could play Rook FD1 and slowly improve your position. Magnus decides to take on F6 and take on D5, right? So he wins a pawn. But he's giving it back immediately. And so I have a funny story about this position. I was in the gym, which is not the funny part. I actually have been taking my fitness a little bit more seriously in the last month and a half. That's why I've been wearing some tank tops, feeling good. I'm actually sore all over. I played an hour and a half of squash yesterday as well. If any of you have never played squash, it's probably the best cardio workout I've ever gotten in my life. My heart rate is like between 140 and 180 beats per minute. Usually like 150, 160, just highly recommended. Yeah, I saw this position in the gym and I was like, why is Magnus going for this? Okay, so we're going to get Bishop C4, right? Moving out of the way. He's going to attack the Rook is going to go to D1 or B1 or whatever. Like, I didn't understand why Magnus was going for this opposite colored Bishop position. I was like, does he really believe that he has some, innate ability to just completely outplay Anish from this endgame? I mean, it's a middle endgame, I suppose. The endgame is incorrect. I'm just like, wow, opposite colored bishops, 2-on-1 on the queen side. Yeah, I mean, there's play left. And I was very curious to see what Magnus was going to do. And then I saw black's next move, and that was queen takes A1. Anish Giri gave up his queen for 2 rooks. Completely unprovoked, completely unnecessarily. Just gave up the queen for the 2 rooks and left Magnus with the queen on the board. And let's see what Magnus can do with his queen. All right, this is the Magnus Carlsen love story. Now, when you play against the queen, when a queen is on the board, you want to remove some defenders of the enemy position, but you don't necessarily want to trade the knights here with white because you're not creating any benefit for yourself. And if white launches an attack, the black bishop is completely useless for the defense, right? And what the person playing with the queen wants to do is stretch the opponent's defenses so thin you're not able to defend yourself. And the best way to do that when you have no more progress is with pawns. And Magnus plays g4 and h4 and g5. And this is how he's going to do it, very simply. His queen is super powerful, and I guess Anish was like, well, I can't lose this position, you know, if Magnus plays hg, hg, maybe I'll go here. Like, there's no way in. Everything is defended. How will he ever get to me? Magnus takes with the knight, so he creates a potential capture here in the future, but also possibilities of checkmate. Anish brings back the bishop. Magnus plays queen f5, and Anish gets rid of the knight. So now the knight is not even playing in the game. Rook e5. Nice little defensive fortress here by black, right? Now here, Anish did not play the move g6 because immediately white would go here. And see, the queen and the bishop are not allowing that rook to move at all. And the threat is queen g6. And if you go here, well, then the threat is bishop takes f7. Then it's to take on g6. So you would need to probably lose material here. So he just plays rook e5, rook c5, and Magnus plays g6, and the attack just continues, right? He takes on f7. Anish covers up. Bishop e6. And I told you, the way you win with the queen versus some pieces like this is you stretch the defenses thin. So they're stretched very thin now. So what does Magnus do? He wanders into c7. This rook can't move at all. He takes b7. He brings the bishop back. He takes a7. Rook and he just wins the game. He just wins the game. What? That was so simple. Anish never even got to move this rook, which goes back to the question of why in God's name did he give up his queen so easily? I don't know. I mean, I saw this position. I was like, well, he's going to play queen a3, rook b1. And then Anish just gave, he's just totally unprovoked. And Magnus was like, okay, I'm just going to advance into your position. I don't know. Magnus has this ability to make people go full Uga mode. Like if Anish was playing this position against me with black, he couldn't get paid to play queen takes a1. That's just what I firmly believe. I don't know why this happens. He has this wizard effect. I guess Anish just thought it was a totally stable position. I guess he thought if he leaves these pieces on the board, in the long run, he will suffer. But in the short run, he suffered even greater. I don't know. Magnus and the queen, what a love story. Another game that was decided in the classical portion in round number 4 was Wang Hao versus Shahriar Mamediyarov. This one was the favorite Rui Lopez of Mamediyarov. Mamediyarov does not play bishop e7, b5, d6 Rui Lopez. He plays the you give me pawn, me take it Rui Lopez with b5, d5. This is known as the open Rui Lopez. And the theory here is very complicated. Now, Wang Hao does something very funny here. So this position has been reached like 10,000 times, and white normally plays knight bd2. This is the move that white normally plays. Bishop c2 is also a move. It's not played as much. Generally, it's played in combination with knight bd2. And Mamediyarov here played, like, for example, if black were to castle here, the next move would be knight bd2. Like, this is generally white's plan. But Mamediyarov uses this specific move order to play bishop g4 here. For example, if you play knight bd2 in this position, there is no bishop g4. You can't really play this because I take, you take, and I have the amazing move queen d5. Unpinning myself and threatening your knight. And black just gets crushed here. Like, black is just much worse. Takes, you have to lose at least the pawn. It's a very unpleasant situation. So, because the bishop moves off of d5, now Mamediyarov does this, and Wang Hao threatens a repetition. On move 11, he threatens a repetition. Because black is a huge underdog in the Armageddon. So Wang Hao plays the cards here. He's like, all right, go back to e6, bozo. Mamedyarov's like, no. And so now the players are in a position that has never happened, according to theory. Like, we go from bishop c2, like mainline 10,000 positions, this specific move order, because white can take d5 and black can take this. And you can take on a8. You can call the bluff on the whole position and allow black to play against your knight, but be up in exchange. So knight bd2. Wang Hao has the opportunity to be up a full exchange. I mean, Mamedyarov just sacrificed the exchange completely. Wang Hao doesn't take it. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. The guy doesn't want to draw to the extent that he's willing to sack a rook on move 10. You gotta love Mamedyarov, by the way. Wang Hao, have some fun. You're coming out of retirement. You haven't played in years. Bishop f4 just doesn't do it. Doesn't do it. So we have this position, and we have a queenless middle game. All right, so black is better here because black has the bishop pair. And white is a little bit more passive, right? So knight d3, very instigating kind of move, attacking the b2 pawn. Wang Hao goes b4. But now this pawn on the c file is looking a little delicate, right? The knight rotates going here or here. That knight is just taking a journey, sightseeing in the white position. Now knight goes back to a4. Wang Hao is trying to bring the knight to c5 over here to try to trade it off. Look at this. I mean, it really feels like Mamedyarov is just a step ahead, forcing Wang Hao to play certain moves. And, I mean, he's just, like, black's position is beautiful. It really feels like everything is coordinating very well. Mamedyarov making the correct exchanges, gives up his bishop. But this is a different story. This is same color bishop, right? Last game, in the Magnus game, we saw the bishops not fighting on the same color. Here, we very much do have them on the same color. If this was a light squared bishop now, you wouldn't be able to get to this, but you certainly can. And that's what Mamedyarov begins doing. And now he picks up the exchange, gets out with his bishop. And Wang Hao does create some counterplay. To his credit, his knight is very powerful. But look at that move. I mean, that bishop wrecking havoc in the position, removing the defender of the knight. And nice job here. That looks scary, but it's not. The pawn's just stopped. Rook a5. It could have advanced, and then he could have but rook b4. So rook a5, and now it's just up to Mamedyarov to win this endgame. He is down a pawn, but he has a rook for a bishop. How does he do it? By picking up the h3 pawn and running around with the rooks, causing problems. And yeah, cutting the rook from the defense of the pawn. And at some point, he will do what you have to do, which is winning the b pawn and converting in relatively effortless fashion. Wang Hao just resigns because f3 is coming, or a rook is coming to f3. Like, this is another way to win this position. Rook to f3, rook to b2, and you just get to this pawn and you get to this king. Yeah, I mean, this was a weird game. It was a weird game because Wang Hao had a really funny opening strategy. He was like, I'm not gonna, I'm threatening a draw here. You got to take some risk. So Mamedyarov did. He took massive risk. He sacrificed an entire, well, not an entire rook, but I'm saying he gave up a rook. And Wang Hao just was not convinced. He thought that black had way too much play here, but, and of course, I'm not playing the game. I mean, like, what are you gonna do, you know? But it's a rook. I guess he thought that black's position was just too powerful. So you gotta give credit to Mamedyarov. I mean, that guy really comes to fight. And maybe this position just is good for black. But it's a rook. It's just, I don't know. I mean, Mamedyarov could just be a genius. Like, for all I know, Mamedyarov could just be, you can't actually play bishop g6 because of this. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, maybe Mamedyarov is just an evil genius who just like sacked a rook and posed some problems to his opponent. Yeah. Crazy, absolutely nuts. I don't know what the best move here is. I really don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I was going to say queen d4, but knight takes f3, and who knows? Got to give credit where it's due. Mamedyarov wins a very nice game with black. And now the Armageddon games. So, first of all, Tapal Tari was the longest classical game of the previous portion. Now we have an Italian. Very imbalanced Italian. So kind of normally white is playing for c3, d4, but here we have knight c3. So not imbalanced. I meant to say obscure Italian, super obscure. Like eats pineapples on pizza, kind of a obscure Italian. I personally don't have a problem with you if you do that. Italians have a problem with you if you do that. So we have a bishop trade early on, nothing complicated. Again, a friendly reminder, black has to force the issue in Armageddon or black will lose. Like, black is just gonna get run off the clock because you're just down 3 minutes. I mean, there's really... And Topalov has lost on time a few times, but he's not gonna lose on time 10 versus 7, okay? Cold brew with oat milk. So, you already know. So yeah, this is a worst case scenario for black. Tari has gotten nothing here. Absolutely nothing. Listen, this is just like... The only way black will ever do anything in this position is by playing g6, f5, or maybe putting the knight on f4. But white has such an easy positional game that the second black takes risks, if they don't go right, you're just gonna lose. That's just how Armageddon works. So, queen e6, queen e1, it literally does nothing. He doesn't have to do a thing. At some point, maybe he will play f4, but there's no reason to play like this. This gives black hope. Maybe. And f4, by the way, it might very well be the best move, but that's what black wants. So just queen e1, right? Knight d4, king h2. Everything is defended. This is defended. What is Tari gonna do to you? All right, he's trying, right? I mean, Topalov is just playing this like the most solid lord of all time, right? g6, Tari's looking for it. I'm not saying he's taking my advice, but he knows what he has to do. His only option is to create something, right? Queen f6. c3, just ultra solid, right? Knight back to c6. Now I kick out the other knight. If you go to take on d3, queen f1. The knight is trapped. And so Tari just forces this because, I mean, I don't know. I doubt he missed this move. He probably just thought he had something. He decides to go back. He decides to sacrifice his piece to open up the king. So Topalov's like, okay, and now what? You gave me a knight for a check. One check. That's it. Knight back to e7. Queen f2. Queen g3. Now I'm forcing a queen trade. I mean, come on. This is literally what I've been telling y'all. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not as good of a player as any of these guys. I'm not as good of an analyzer as these guys. But I'm telling you, Armageddon is just hopeless for black if you get into a boring e4, e5 game. The only way to make Armageddon even remotely possible to win in e4, e5, in my opinion, is to play h6. I'm actually kind of shocked Tari didn't play like the Caro, because he plays the Caro. I don't know. It doesn't... yeah, I don't know. Because the thing is, it's half a point. It's 1.5 or 1. Like, you might as well go for it, but I'm not... I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know what I'm talking about. I mean, I kind of know what I'm talking about, but it's a worst case scenario what happened in this game. It's frustrating because I want Tari to do well. I want Topalov to do well as well, but yeah, there's nothing. I mean, he forces the queen trade and he's just winning. He just trades queens, wins the pawn. Full piece up, Tari resigns. Almost like, the game like barely happened, right? It was just boring and equal and, a guy's got to go for it, but there's nothing you can do. Next Armageddon game is between Rajabov and MVL. This one, MVL goes for kind of a Queen's Gambit accepted hybrid variation, but then it just becomes a standard. And yeah, it's just weird to see MVL playing anything that's not a Grunfeld. So we have a symmetrical structure. White is always slightly better here because this bishop is very passive. And it's really up to white where to play. Like you're looking at stuff over here, right? B5, you're looking at this going back, right? Maybe A4 is going to come if B5 comes. Just different ideas to play the position. I mean, it's really all it is. Like, this bishop is going to B2, queen is going here, these pieces are coming like this. So, bishop B7, bishop B2, and there it is. Now, we might see A4, we might not see A4. Because maybe Rajabov wants to fight on this diagonal. So we have bishop b7, rook c1, bishop f3, queen c2. A little jostling here. You might say, Levy, you promised me to move a4. Where is it? It can happen. I mean, again, b4 is a horrible move by black because that allows this, and black is just getting obliterated on the queen side. So that's just not good at all. So queen c2 takes. And, yeah, I mean, like I said, white is always slightly better here. And we have the same situation we had in the last game. If white does nothing, black has to self-destruct in order to create a possibility of victory, or at least a draw, right? White can do nothing. White is up 3 minutes otherwise. So, queen e4. Rajabov actually trades queens here, which is shocking to me. Absolutely shocking. But I guess if he had played queen e2, black takes over the initiative. I guess that was the logic, like rook d7, e5, etc. So perhaps he didn't like that. He thought his best chances were actually in a queenless middle game. Okay, fine. Bishop f6. And now there is a tactic here, by the way, knight e6, which is kind of a funny move. Point is that rook takes d1, rook takes d1. If you take me here, then I have rook d8 check, followed by knight f8, and I can win the knight. So here, check, here, check. Then I pick the knight up on b8. I'm not exactly sure why he didn't go for that. I guess he just, he thought that this position wasn't as good for him as, I don't know, maybe, yeah. But yeah, again, you don't have to do too much. He just plays rook e1. Rook e1 is a wild move as well. Just kind of like passing the move back to the opponent, like rook c2. He's just kind of stalling. He's like, I don't have to do anything. I can just chill. Like, and now that MVL is trying to also maybe stall the clock out a little bit. Yeah, now white is just making a little bit of forward progress. Time is ticking. All right, as you can tell, nothing is happening. It's kind of difficult to make this interesting. Some of you tell me that my commentary is fascinating and, you know, I could make paint drying on a wall sound interesting. All I can make sound interesting about this position is the fact that MVL finally broke. He finally decided to extend his position forward, and immediately the pawn became a target. Like this, because now rook c8. Now I'm trying to remove the defender of the pawn. For example, if you play the move e4, I have check, here, rook c8, and I win the knight. So when the bishop lands on a5, there is a sneaky idea here, and now we have a big problem. So that's what happens in the Armageddon. White stalls the clock on black. Black finally does something goofy, loses a pawn, and now black is just a pawn down with absolutely no time to defend himself. And Rajabov wins a very, very easy game. All right, cool. Last game of round number 4 is Wesley So versus Vishy Anand. Like, this is first and second place going head-to-head. This one was a symmetrical English. Their classical game was extremely, extremely imbalanced. Actually, I'm actually wanted to show it. I kind of forgot. I'm going to do something I have never done in a recap. I'm going to add a game in the middle of a recap because I wanted to show this game. I just forgot because it was the morning and I haven't had an opportunity to drink my coffee. As you can see, it's like, you know, 60% done. We're going to quickly go through it because their game actually was sort of, I'm even going to take the time to, you know, put the title and I'm sorry, but listen, you make it far in my videos. If you have a good attention span, you always get some sort of, you know, cool stuff. So my cool stuff for you today is adding a game in the middle of the recap. They drew the classical game, obviously, but this game started with a relatively similar thing, but Vishy played e6, which causes some weaknesses. And Wesley sacked the pawn. He sacked the pawn just straight out of the opening, and their game was completely nuts. d5, queen a4 check, and king f8. Now, the reason I didn't remember to show this is because something told me, like, they played a bunch of theory. This is all theory. It's just kind of like memorized stuff. Queen a3 check, queen e7. White is trying to, you know, get in, and that's what he does. Black is trying to kick the knight out. White is trying to keep the knight there with the move c5. And then castle. Like, this is just an insane position. Like, what is going on? Black built a boat. This is what it looks like. This looks like a boat, and he's trying to get all the pieces out. I mean, it's just, what the heck? The best move here for white is what Wesley plays, which is e4, just trying to shred open the center. There is en passant here, but it's too dangerous because the queen rotates and forks these two pieces, and then queen e2, and there's just not a whole lot of opportunities here for black to defend the position. Wesley said after e4, the best move by black is rook d8 with the opportunity to sacrifice the rook, which is just nuts. This is what Wesley said in his post-match interview. And then something like e5. This was in his notes. 17 moves of prep for a position where black is down in exchange, but is in an equal position. But as all good things, generally, when prep is played and best moves are played, oftentimes you can kind of, you know, escape. And Anand here does a good job. I mean, he walks through the absolute psycho prep that Wesley has for him. Wesley ends up trying to go for b5 and just gets himself in a worse position. He gets into a worse position because, believe it or not, all of the goofy stuff that white has done, white has never won the pawn back. Instant replay on move 6. White lost the pawn, right? And white was trying to keep up the pressure and get a good position. But he didn't. He actually did not get a good position. He got a bishop pair, but black has a pass pawn. And so Anand can, you know, he can stabilize the position, but he can also play it for a win. I think something happened here, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere. I think like here, Vishy maybe could have tried to play d3 or... yeah, I mean, Wesley never really had an opportunity to capitalize on the preparation. He played a lot of very good moves, restricting his opponent. But I think somewhere here, Stockfish, after bishop b7, was giving black -1. It's trying to tell you that black is just -1. Bishop f1, rook a8, bishop g2, and the players repeat moves. But apparently, in this position, if black goes d3, black is playing for a win, just straight up a win. Bishop c6, takes, queen a7 check, and black is playing for a win. So, Stockfish unafraid, but Vishy's like, you know what? I survived the worst of it. Maybe I don't have a lot of time. Let's go to the Armageddon, right? So we have a same opening, but this time Wesley plays d3. Vishy does not go, he doesn't play this. So yeah, their game was insane. This is just a very calm and collected, symmetrical English. But as I've been saying, folks, we've seen 2 Armageddons today where the structure was symmetrical for a long time and white ran the clock out on black. Vishy's trying to do stuff, right? Vishy understands. He's trying to force the issue a little bit. You can bet that at some point we're going to have pawns jostling over here, because if black stalls for too long, nothing's going to happen. You see Wesley. I mean, Wesley's just, he's doing what he's got to do. I mean, he's trading everything. He's removing the piece, right? He just trades. Here comes f4. And Wesley's just ever so slightly better. Vishy in this game takes the complete opposite approach. So his approach here is the position is so solid, I can make a bunch of easy moves. It doesn't matter that I'm down 3 minutes. I'm not going to take the advice of that idiot YouTube guy, all right, who says, force the issue, force the issue. Force the issue for who? Stupid. All right, so, you know, Vishy's just like, that guy's an idiot. Don't listen to him. I'm going to be ultra solid. Wesley's like, okay, you want to be ultra solid? Here comes h4. b5. The thing about playing with less time is that it's harder for you to calculate all the intricacies of the position. You're completely playing on feel. I mean, Vishy's one of the greatest of all time. So his feel is probably pretty good. But you see Wesley just making this annoying for black, right? h5, right? G takes h5, right? Bishop f3, queen h2, etc., etc. Putting that pressure. Rook c1, rook c1. Black is better again. All right, black is better again. For the second time, Vishy is outplaying Wesley, completely calling the bluff on all the stuff happening on this side of the board. All right, bishop b5, now he takes on h5. It looks like you're breaking in. Only one guy's breaking in here, and it's Vishy. Completely outplaying with this strategy of being ultra solid, letting Wesley come to him, which is not how we've seen this happen. Normally, black overextends and, you know, nothing happens, right? Or black just gets out-solided in a game. Takes, queen f3. Takes. Vishy had to play bishop takes e2. And probably what happened here is on the 30th move of the game, Vishy just, he played a little bit too quickly. In trying to catch up on the clock. Vishy's completely winning here with bishop takes bishop. If queen takes back, rook takes g3, and the queen is getting in, and it's just, like you could play king h2, it's mate in 1. If you play king f2, queen h3, massive attack, the game is over. Probably what Wesley thought he was going to do here was take with check. Put king h8. f7. Rook takes g3. Now, you are threatening to queen at some point, but you can take. Doesn't matter. You can take, because queen, the rook comes back. The rook comes back. So bishop takes e2, just wins on the spot. And instead of that, Vishy back a queen backwards move, and it's a fork, and oh, the game is over. The game's over. Wesley's winning. Wesley's winning. He just gets the bishop. There's just nothing you can do about it. If you take now, it's mate in 2. That's the difference. So Wesley's attack breaks through. Vishy is now just a piece down. I mean, he's obviously trying his best, but yeah, Wesley gets it down to the worst possible endgame for black. Even though he has this deep pawn, he can't really push it. And Wesley goes on to win. And the craziest thing is, by the end of the game, the time difference between the players, despite it being 3 minutes to start, was 30 seconds. So Vishy played it perfectly. But just in this critical moment, didn't realize that bishop e2 and rook g3 and rook back to g8 holds the game for him. So he loses his first mini match in 4 games, in 4 rounds. After 4 rounds of action at Norway Chess, Vishy Anand and Magnus Carlsen are tied for first with 8.5 out of a possible 13 points. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. But they both have 8.5. It's not 13 points, it's 12 points, because you could theoretically earn 12 points. So they both have 8.5. The standings are just messed up. Then it's Wesley and Mamedyarov with 7.5 and 7, and then the field kind of drops off from there. Yeah, folks. Catch you all for the next recap video. Get out of here.